It's like the air around me. It's like the sunlight on my face. I feel the love of God surround me. I am touched by amazing grace. And all I ever wanted and all I ever needed was already there. Closer than the sunlight and nearer than the air. I breathe in and I am filled with the Spirit. And it is health to my body, it is peace to my mind, it is joy, it is joy, it is joy to my soul. And I breathe out a simple prayer of thank you. And my breath becomes a song that was singing all along, that is singing everywhere. It's nearer than the air. And I breathe in and I am filled with the Spirit, and it is health to my body, it is peace to my soul, it is joy, it is joy, it is joy, and I breathe out a simple prayer of thank you. And my breath becomes a song that was singing all along, that is singing everywhere. It is nearer than the air.
Good morning, and welcome to Unity Temple in the Plaza, a place where diversity is praised and peace and harmony the rewards. I have a few brief announcements before we begin the service. For those of you who haven't been here for some time, welcome back. It's good to see your faces. And this morning I have a special treat for you. Rory Hutt, a person on the ministerial path, is going to be our speaker. He's been with us for about a year, and he plans on entering the seminary sometime in the next 6 months. So we welcome him. Also, next Sunday at 4 o'clock in this room, there's a concert that's called A Tribute to Black Composers. It's all the greatest jazz music that black composers have created here in the Kansas City area. There'll be a 19-piece orchestra along with Angela Hagenbach and David Bassey and Lori Tucker. It should be great. Tickets for sale in the lobby. And with a certain degree of sadness, today marks the day that we did a celebration of life for Madeline McDowell, and this is the 7th anniversary of that. and the flowers on the altar today are in memory of her. She's just a vibrant young lady. I got to watch her grow up in the church, and I feel that she's still with us in some way, and so we bless her. We'll now begin the service with the temple chimes, the opening prayer, and I almost said Geneva Price in the call to inspiration. And called inspiration by Kelly Hunt. And Kelly, I understand that you had a loss in your family too. You lost your father. Our condolences go out to you, and we blessed you and we blessed him on his way. Please say this with me if you choose. On this day, we dedicate ourselves to peace on earth. We accept ourselves without harsh judgment and express appreciation for our individuality. We live without fear to meet the events of this day with confidence. We accept others without prejudice to experience a sense of unity with all people. We honor our earthly environment and recognize the sense of oneness with all creation. In harmony with ourselves, our lives, other people, and all of nature, we live this day with a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, and a peaceful spirit. Thank you, God. Amen.
God is all is God. God is everywhere. God is all is God. God is everywhere. I see joy and I see peace. I see goodness surrounding me. I see love in every breath I breathe. I see God in everything. I see happiness. I see freedom. I see beauty that lies in me. I see perfection in what life brings. Oh, I see God in everything. I feel joy and I feel peace. I feel goodness surrounding me. I feel love in every breath I breathe. I feel God in everything. I feel happiness. I feel freedom. Oh, I feel the beauty that lives in me. I see perfection in what life brings. I feel God in everything. No, I choose joy and I choose peace. I choose goodness surrounding me. And I choose love in every breath I breathe. I choose God in everything, and I choose happiness. I choose freedom. I choose beauty that lives in me. I choose perfection in everything that life brings. I choose God, everything, and I know joy. I know love's in every breath that I breathe. I know God is in everything. I know God is in everything. I know God is in everything.
Good morning, Unity Temple. So I want to start my conversation today with a story that happened this last week. My son, he called me and he said, "Dad, can I have $10?" And I love these opportunities with my children to just impart lessons of what can he do for the $10. I could have him go do something out in the yard. That's one way to do it. But instead, I had him get on YouTube and watch a particular channel, which all of these videos have lessons in them. And it's usually just a random story. So this particular story was about a child who wanted his dad to come and play with him. And so the kid goes up to his dad and is like, "Dad, hey, can we go on a bike ride?" And the dad, he's just tired from work. It's been an exhausting week. So he's like, no, I have no interest in doing that, son. But children, we love them because they're persistent. And the kid says, "Dad, please, will you go on a bike ride with me?" And the dad just starts getting annoyed and says, I don't want to go on a bike ride. Son's like, "Please, Dad." The dad's like, "No." So what the dad does is he grabs a newspaper, shreds the newspaper, it's a picture of the world, and puts it down and says, "Go tape this back together." A few minutes later, the boy comes back. The dad's kind of just shocked because the boy says, "Well, I put it back together." And the dad said, "How did you do that so quickly?" And the boy says, "Because there was a picture of a man on the other side." So the moral in that story is that when you put the man back together, the world goes back together. The topic for today that I wanted to speak about was God in our midst. There's a lot of times that as we're out there in the world, people say, God's not present right now, or even if we listen in certain circles of spiritual understanding, will say when God returns or when Jesus returns, this is what will go on. Things will get better. He's going to come and clear the world. Well, in Unity, we look at things a little bit differently. So if we're looking at where is God at, if you think of principle number 1, and just the condensed down version is God is. It's not saying that God is somewhere other than where we are at. It's saying that God is everywhere. God is in everything. Sometimes in conversations, I'll find people saying that, man was created in the image of God. So where people will go down that path is that they will begin to envision that, okay, God was like me, so therefore God is like, so if I am like God, God is like me. So in one side, we'll accept that, okay, I'm made in the image of God. But then as we're looking at our experiences, we look at the lives that we're living and how we're sometimes limited in some different ways. Maybe it's physically, maybe it's with the way that we're processing a challenge. And because we're limited in such a way, and we associate in our minds that we're made in the image of God, we somehow come into an illusion that God is limited as I am. And when we're exploring that, we have to get back to the remembrance of where is God at? And when we're looking at our lives, God is in everything. Even in the most adverse situations, is God there? And we can only begin to understand that when we pause and we start to reflect and we're looking for the God in that experience. This morning we were having a conversation about where do we find God at? And Duke had a great response and he said in the beauty. And for everyone it's different because what's beautiful to one person may not be beautiful to another. We look at that whenever we go to a museum or we go to an art gallery. Because this one painting may be beautiful to one, may be ugly to the other. You find beauty in that which is right for you. The next part of that is giving yourself permission and removing the judgment of saying, my life is this way, judgments of yourself. Can you come to that place of absolute love for yourself? Because if God is and I am, which means you are of that essence, then you in turn are in that perfection, and you are in everything. In psychology, we'll hear it said that you see in everything else a reflection of that which you are. So if you're looking at something and it's causing you turmoil, it could be something going on in the news, it could be something in your personal life, it could be in your relationship with your children, or it could be in the relationship with your parents. It doesn't necessarily mean that your parents are still with us presently, because some of us still carry around the experiences of our parents, and it's hard for us to move forward because of that. So as you look at your life, can you reflect on some people that maybe you've encountered that carry around some of that baggage from their parents or experiences from their childhood, and they're allowing that to control their outlook on every current situation that they're faced with? So in those moments, turn back to that first principle that God is, and just pause and be still. You're going to find your own way to get to that understanding, but it's important to give yourself permission to say, this is my path. It may be in your spiritual practices. It could be coming here to Unity. And there are so many phenomenal Unity teachers. Now, as I've embarked upon this journey into the formal education of Unity, I'm learning a lot of things. One last week was the meanings of the different words of Jesus, where you've got Jesus, you've got the Christ, you got Jesus Christ, and Christ Jesus. I knew nothing about these 4 different positions in Jesus' life. But what's amazing is that God has placed everything in our lives that we need to find the correct answers for us if we become the right kind of student. Jesus demonstrated that by having a childlike enthusiasm. Children have curiosity. And if you're curious, you can start to see things that you wouldn't otherwise see, because sometimes we develop as ketomas, which are blind spots in our vision. And you see that whenever you're in a dark space. Maybe it's depression, maybe it's anxiety of, I'm not seeing it right now. There's nothing good going on in my life. Well, look at our children, look at the interactions there, because if we want the best for our children, and sometimes we'll hear that in conversations of, well, I just want my children to have it better than I do. But in our conversations, we're not being present, and we're not being aware of what we're saying, and we start speaking in limitations and in judgment, and our kids witness that. Now this cycle or thought process that you were trying to break as you're on your own journey now is being duplicated in your children, because they can't perceive. They're very open to whatever they hear. So you have to be very conscious about, well, what am I presenting out there in the world? Well, God is absent of this situation. But in church, when we come here to Unity, we're talking about how God is in everything. But now, out there in the world, I somehow have forgotten what I was saying, and I'm creating space between where God is and what that experience is. So the first principle is God is, and then number 2 is I am. So God is wherever you are. When you're looking at someone else's face, you can look at them with judgment. Maybe they've got a lifestyle that isn't congruent with how you feel they should be. And instead of looking at them with godlike eyes, you're looking at them with critical eyes, with your earthly mind. And then that is lowering their ability to fully express themselves as God and to feel that inside of them, because then they've come from a place of limitation. So practicing that I am God and I see the God in you. So imagine that, if you're a child, and I see some beautiful children in here, is that as you're out there in the world and you see a friend who's down on themselves, what can you say to encourage them? Or even as an adult, because sometimes we're a child who's in an adult's body. Maybe we're 80 years old. The judgment that the world places on you, like you're 80, so you're no longer a child. Yes, you are still. It's where you're at in your mind, because I'm sure that a lot of you have experienced that the age of your body does not reflect the age of your mind, the age of that spirit. Give yourself confidence and permission to be young, to be youthful. You don't have to form into what the world says this is what an 80-year-old should act like. And that's that God living out. That's that God expression. That's that childlike enthusiasm. I remember going to my aunt as a child, and she was doing something. She was like singing in the kitchen. I said, "Aunt Leanna, you're not acting your age." She looked at me. She said, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You're not acting like, a 65-year-old should act." I don't think she was 65. But, time gets skewed as we get older. And she said, "Well, how does someone my age act?" And I thought, it was a very life-changing moment in her kitchen that day as she's cooking like spaghetti or something. Myrtle Fillmore had this great expression. She said, the real purpose of life is to express the creation of God. So as you're going out there in life, just think about that. The real meaning of life is to express the creation of God. Am I carrying myself like that? And that's those pauses. That's where you're going to find the peace, is in the pause, that still small voice. It's written about many times in the Bible. What is this still small voice? It's the one that's often drowned out by your ego or your worldly mind that says, well, it can't be this way. I got to stay busy. Then your expectations are being built upon false pretenses rather than getting back to the source, because wherever you are is a great place to be if you can find the meaning in that experience. The third principle is I think. Are you controlling your thoughts? Are you sharing with others how to control their thoughts? Meaning you don't dictate the way that they think, but if you can be in control of you and you can be that demonstration of a better way to live, then the right people will begin to see that in you. And that is also extremely important, because so many times in life we've got people out there who are just kind of living as a byproduct of the experiences that they're having. And then they go out and they commiserate together. And so now, rather than coming to any sort of solution, is here's the challenge that I'm going with, here's the challenge you're going with, let's just commiserate together, rather than someone shifting that focus and saying a different question, a different way to look at it, of how is God functioning in this? And am I being the representation of what I feel is right out there in the world? Some will say, when Jesus comes again, and I forget the teacher who said this, but in that situation, when someone says, when the second coming occurs, then you look at that individual and say, I see you're here. And are you addressing the world from that place? What if, by chance, you are that representation of the Christ energy in the world? And you are, in a way, looking at it as you are that second coming, if you were. Not saying that you are, because, there's a lot of triggers that might be going off in people's heads when they're saying, did he just say that I'm the second coming? No, not necessarily. I'm saying that what if you were in that role? Are you carrying yourself in such a way in every instant? Or are you saying someplace else things are better than they are here? Number 4 is I pray. You need to find your own way of praying. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's transcendental meditation. Maybe it is in affirmation. Whatever your practice is, it's okay, but find your practice. And as you're looking back over your week, and it's my hallucination that not everyone has that regular routine that you're going through to turn inward. And if you are, maybe it's not as much time as you would like for it to be, or perhaps you say, well, I meditated once this week. Well, if you meditated once this week, 7 days out of the week, that means 6 days you did not necessarily turn inward. And anything that you do with repetition becomes a habit, and anything that becomes a habit becomes your life. And then we're saying, wow, I'm spending, where people will get upset sometimes, they'll do the judgment of themselves and say, well, it's not easy to be positive all the time. Right, it's not. Life is challenging. Sometimes we slip into this earthly mind and we say, well, God's not in this moment, but he is. So in those early stages of your development, and it doesn't matter where you're at, because everyone is exactly where they need to be. But if you're looking at it and you said, I was only 10% positive this week, I was 90% negative, watching your attitude. I was only able to keep a good attitude for a little while. The doctor said that I'm ill. These people said that my lifestyle is not, right by their perceptions of what is right and wrong. And you can't be positive all the time. Right. But what if you could just be 1% more positive this week than you were last week? So instead of just being 10% positive with your attitude, 11. And it's that slow growth. But don't be judgmental on yourself, because it took you X amount of years to get to where you're at. And some people, well, I don't like this. It's okay. It took you 50 years to get into the state where you're at, 60 years, 70 years. But every day and when the awareness comes into your life, it's the right day. So although it may have been that way for 50 or 60 years, you're exactly where you need to be for that shift when that awareness comes. Because obviously you're here to expand on your understanding. It's to seek new questions, because whoever comes up here on the stage, it's no different than any of you, because each one of you have your own lessons. It's a matter of, can you seek those out? And are you looking for questions to be answered? And if there are, by all means, bring those up, because those are the things we want to speak about when we're up here, is what are people going through? So learn how to pray in the way that's right for you, and a little bit more each week will be great. A little bit more time in the silence, a little bit more time giving yourself permission and giving yourself love. Looking at yourself and saying, I see God in the mirror, because you are an emanation of that. If you look at God as being the ocean, we're all waves of that ocean, and so you're a part of that. Just spend a couple minutes in the mirror and saying, I know it may seem funny, some of you, in case you're running through this scenario in your mind, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. And just pause and be in that moment, and I love you. And are you allowing yourself to feel that? That'll make a huge shift in your day. Then you go out into the world, and you're in a group of people, you're around a group of people that you don't necessarily like, that don't necessarily resonate with you. Look at them and say, I love you. And in your mind, you can say, the God in me sees the God in you. And just be in that moment. Then you can go back to your old ways, but if you spend even 1% more time in that positive area, that's great. That's called growth. And we all love growth. So how to help you remember and remind: find your own tools. Prayer is a great way. Turning inward, trusting that internal voice of, this is the direction that I want to go in my life. And trust yourself a little bit in that. There's a lot of noise out there in the world that's going to tell you how to live your life, or this is the correct way, or this is what your finances need to look like at this age, or this is what your friendships need to look like. Because so many people are going through their own unique experiences. Whenever it comes to finances is one area, another way is relationships, another way is with children. And we have to watch those comparisons, because that comparison subconsciously will really begin to affect us. And as we allow things to affect us, it takes us further away from our spiritual center, which the spiritual center is where you're going to find the highest level of peace. Every time you move further away from that, you'll find that life gets a little bit more chaotic. And so if you hear people saying things like, the answer's over there, or if you go and seek out Jesus, then that's when your life's going to be more imbalanced. But if you listen to the teachings of Jesus, it was always about going on that inward venture to find that inner man, to find out who you truly are, that Christ within. And that's the fifth principle, is I live. So the 5 principles: God is, I am, I think, I pray, and I live. So you, as you're going out into the world, claiming that greatness, claiming that God good that's inside of you, and carrying that out there in the world. When you walk outside, you can have different feelings. Some of you will be focused on the cold. Some of you will look across the road and see the beautiful green plants. Others of you will go into your car and look at some bill that's been sitting around and allow that to dictate your attitude in your life. But behind that, that's where the highest level of peace is at. Because if all of a sudden you get into a car accident and you break your legs, how important is that bill? The level of significance suddenly shift. It's not that it had to be that way in the first place. It's where we were choosing to put our emphasis. So if you're looking at life, you say, God is good, God is in everything, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to feel it today. That is awesome. And just focus on doing that. For an hour out of today, get rid of judgment. So if you want to practice, just go out there. I'm going to be non-judgmental of myself or anyone else. And just see if you can do that for an hour. And maybe you're great at it. And if you are, I encourage you, we need to have more of those conversations about how did you effectively get to the point to where you have no judgment in your life, in your day. That's awesome. Very few people can do that. But how long can you go without being judging and being that expression of God in the world? Because it is always there. Even in the worst tragedies, immediately following a tragedy, there's restoration that comes from that. And how long are we going to focus on the tragedy rather than how is God going to work in this right now? It's not to say that God wasn't involved as the tragedy happened, because God was already there for the resources to be in place to suddenly take action. Or we could say God was absent that when that happened, which then that's your choice of attitude of where we seeing God at in this moment, in this instant. So as you're finding your own practice, whether that be meditation, Unity has some phenomenal teachers, and it's gold on the shelves. If you ever get the opportunity, and everyone in here has gold in their mind that can be shared with others that someone else needs, if you're willing to claim that, and as long as you're willing to step into that space. Now, obviously, sometimes we're going through things that we don't feel that we can share, and that's okay. But I just want you to know that regardless of what you're going through, there's a value in your story, and I encourage you all to get to a space to where you're willing to share that, because that's the next part that I want to cover. Is we've explored where God is at. God is everywhere that you are. Find a practice to bring that more awareness, that level of awareness up in your life. So whether that be in meditation, whether that be looking in the mirror, whether that be looking at our children, giving them encouragement, calling a friend you haven't called in a while, express that in your life. But then it's how do you continue to share that with other people? Because outside of here, people aren't having upbeat conversations. They're not necessarily hearing about how they're loved. There's judgment. If you live your life this particular way, this is what's going to happen. An example that happened to me just about a week ago, I was sitting at a funeral service. For those of you who don't know, I am a funeral director and embalmer. And I'm sitting at this Catholic service, and I'm listening to the words. It's just out of, I like listening to how are people wording things and what's going on here. And so this priest said, you know, John was a really good guy. We hope he gets to go to heaven, but there's no way of knowing that for certain, because the only way that we know for certain someone goes to heaven is if the church deemed it so. And I thought, did he just say that you can be a practicing Catholic your entire life, but because the church didn't say that you're a saint, you don't necessarily get to go to heaven? I thought, wow. What kind of effect does that have on someone where you've lived your entire life and the guy's dead right now, and you just said to the family, I'm not sure if he gets to go to heaven, but he seems like a good guy. And I thought, man, we need to have a class on religious trauma here at some point in time, because I'm just guessing some of us have some interesting stories out there. So what are we saying to other people? That this is the ending point of what can you do out there in your day to help shed that kind of information of God's in you. Everything that you're going through is okay. Because I love you and I see in you, I see beyond this circumstance. A friend gets into a car accident. A friend of mine just got into a car accident. Her arm's shattered, and she's worried about getting use in that arm. I'm just saying, hey, because we can commiserate, otherwise we can remind them how amazing they are. Because a negative attitude doesn't help you. So many books on unity are based around power of a positive attitude, the remembrance of the God inside of you, because that's a lot of the unity healing, is that if you remember that you are in perfect health, that you are perfect in every experience that you're having, that shifts every area of your life. Are you willing to claim that? Because life is great. You are great. You are beautiful. Will you go through some stuff? Yes. Welcome to life, the arena, a great training ground. But you are always teacher and you are always student. What is life there to teach you? And then also, who is showing up that needs taught by you? And it's not to come from a place of I know anything more than any of you, because everyone's story is different. You are the greatest teacher in the story called your life and the lessons that you've gleaned. Now, you are also your own teacher and you are also your own student if you choose to seek out what those lessons are, and if you wish to share those with yourself. There's a lot of judgment, once again, people have of, my life was an entire struggle the entire time, there's nothing going to be taken from. Yes, there is, because you're here and you're processing it. So if you've gone through it and you can now process it, then obviously it was there to help you grow to exactly where you were, because had you not had that experience, you couldn't look back upon that. In your words, you may say, I never want someone to go through what I went through. Okay, let's sit down and have some popcorn with each other for a moment. And this is a great way to view the things that you're going through. So Duke and I are in a conversation, and I'm like, Duke, this is the experience that I'm having. And as Duke's trying to give me clarity and understanding, I'm fully in this experience. But he says, Rory, come sit down and have some popcorn with me. So I sit there with a smile on my face, eating some popcorn. And now we can look at the situation that Rory is going through with a different set of eyes. Because let me borrow yours, because maybe you don't have that scotoma that I have of the experience, and maybe you can help give me sight where I lack sight in my journey. And that could even be yourself, because if you don't have that close circle of people who are helping shift your understanding, that could just be you. But give yourself permission to do that. And always remember that God is in everything, in every experience that you're going through. If you are searching it out, if you are, not even if you're searching it out, because whenever we get to really understand this, and we say this every Sunday, is wherever we are, what follows that? Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Are you living your life that way? And make that your slogan for this week. If you need a statement of things going bad, wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Okay, wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Carry that with you. Keep that in your pocket as a little piece of paper reminder, because then you can pull it out. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. This really stinks right now. Okay, wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Okay. But be patient with yourself, because it's taken wherever you're at in your journey. Maybe you're 50, maybe you're 60, maybe you're 70, or maybe you're 10. It's taken you that many of years to get to exactly where you're at. Be patient as you're making a shift in your understanding of these awarenesses that are always there. But the teachers are there. You are there. You are God. We see it in you. We see that love that's being expressed by you, and share that with the world, because you have gifts to bring out there. So I appreciate you all coming out here. In community, after this, there's always the time to go downstairs and share with each other, because I want you to each remember that you each have stories to share. Be a student and be a teacher, but remember also that you're exactly where you need to be when you need to be there. So I appreciate you all being here this morning.
The stillness of the silence, I am one with God the good. I am trusting as I listen. Faith now fills me, thrills me, mind and heart. In the stillness of the silence, I am one with light and love. I am wise and my thoughts are loving. Peace now fills me, thrills me, mind and heart.
As we move into meditation, find a comfortable position to sit in. And for a moment, take a few deep breaths, and as you breathe in, pause for just a moment. And then as you breathe out, feel your body becoming relaxed. Become aware of the breath, breathing in and breathing out. Each of us has been given everything we need to live a comfortable and fulfilling life. We've been given a mind with which to analyze the world. We've been given a spirit to express what we're feeling. We've been given a beautiful planet to live on, a virtual paradise. At any given moment, we have everything we need to be comfortable and fulfilled. So as we turn from the distractions in life, the disturbances, the disappointments, we open our eyes to the abundance that's provided us through other people, through nature, through our own contemplations, through our successes, through our losses. We have life to live on our terms. We now move into the silence with a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, and a peaceful spirit. We slowly begin to come back to this time and this place. And we do so with a sense of peace. We do so with a sense of energy. For every person in this room, for every person on this planet, these three things are true. Peace is the greatest thing we desire. Harmony is our most natural position. And love is the greatest experience we can have. Peace, harmony, and love. So they speak these words, make them your own. I am at peace with all the situations and circumstances in my life. I'm at peace with all the people in my world. And I'm at peace with myself in the life that I'm living. Peaceful mind, peaceful heart, peaceful spirit. And so it is.
In the stillness of the silence, I am one with perfect light. I am healed, I live in freedom. Joy now fills me, thrills me, mind and heart.
This is the time we take a little bit of time to express our gratitude for something in our lives, for everything in our lives. So I invite you to do that on your own. Just think of something that truly blesses you in your life on this day. Think of Unity Temple, how it blesses you, how it provides for all of us a sense of refuge from the world that can oftentimes be difficult. I'm grateful for Sandra Campbell sitting out there in the audience. It's very strange to see her, not on stage and in the audience. Our affirmation is divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And thank you in advance for your offerings.
Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me. Where does love live? Deep inside of me. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Now do you feel those good vibrations way down in your heart? Getting rid of all the lamentations. Oh, with a brand new start. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me. Where does love live? It lives deep inside of me. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Now we've got to remind each other when it seems there's no way out. We don't have to look any further. Oh, sing and shout. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me. That's right. Where does love live? Deep inside of me. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Oh, come on and lift up your voices. Get up and clap your hands. It's high time that we remember we gotta make a stand. Where does love live? Deep inside of me. Where does God live? That's right, deep inside of me. All right. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Whoa, 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 whoa. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. That's right. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me. I want to say it again. Where does love live? Deep inside of me. All right. Where does God live? Deep inside of me.
So I did forget to mention this Wednesday at 6:30, there's a wonderful class being taught on the power and the wisdom within the stories that are passed down from generation to generation. Misha's over here. She's going to be teaching the class 6:30 this Wednesday. And what room's it in? Temple Space. Okay. So you might want to attend that. We'll now close with the prayer for protection and the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.